Dust exploded beneath my paws as I tore through the tall grass, heart pounding like war drums. The hyenas were behind me, too many to fight, too hungry to fear. I lunged over a fallen log, claws scraping the bark, my breath ragged, my vision narrowing. One of them snapped at my hind leg, teeth catching air by a whisker. I didn't look back. Looking back meant slowing down, and slowing down meant dying. If this is where my story ends, humans will say the lion was careless, or weak, or unlucky. But that's the problem with humans. They always tell the jungle's story from the outside. They don't feel the dirt under their claws. They don't taste fear. They don't bleed the way I bleed. And that's why you're here, to hear my side of the story. I wasn't always running for my life. Once, long ago, I ran for the joy of it, bounding through the savannah as a cub, trying to keep up with my brother, Kumo. He was faster than me, braver than me, louder than me. Or at least I thought so back then. He used to taunt me with that booming cub roar of his, and I'd chase him until my legs wobbled. The sun was always bright in those days. The nights were always warm. And our pride was unbreakable. Or so it seemed. My mother used to call me Little Roamer because I wandered farther than any cub had the right to. And maybe that's why I saw things the others didn't. Shadows creeping at the edge of our lands. Lone males watching us. Buzzards circling early. The air changing. Even as a cub, I felt the jungle shift, as if warning me, kings don't stay kings forever. But I didn't understand then. I was too young, too full of dreams and dust and sunshine. The day everything changed began like all the others. Kumo and I were wrestling near the edge of the pride's territory. He'd pinned me, of course. His strength always came early. I remember laughing, trying to twist free, when suddenly my brother froze. His ears flattened, his tail stiffened. That's when I smelled them. Two male lions, big, fresh scars, heavy steps. The air grew heavy as they emerged, massive silhouettes cutting through the haze. Their eyes were sharp knives, not looking at us, but looking through us. I stumbled backward and ran to the pride. Kumo followed. But when we returned, everything was wrong. The lionesses had gathered in a tight cluster, their tails lashing anxiously. My father stood alone between them and the approaching invaders. And for the first time in my young life, he didn't look unbeatable. The first clash shook the earth. I had never heard roars like that, thunder tearing the sky apart. Dust swirled into clouds as the lions collided, muscles bulging, claws raking deep, teeth flashing. My heart banged against my ribs. Kumo tugged me back, telling me to stay hidden, but my eyes couldn't look away. The world I knew, my safe, perfect world, was cracking open. My father fought like a storm, but storms don't last forever. The invaders pressed harder, faster. One rammed into his side. The other lunged for his throat. I wanted to scream for him, but the fear stole my voice. He staggered, and in that moment, I saw the truth. He wasn't a king. He was a lion fighting not to die. He roared one last time, a sound that tore something inside me. Then he fell. The lionesses howled with grief, but none of them dared move. The laws of the jungle are cruel. The moment a king falls, the pride falls silent. The invaders stood panting, their eyes scanning the pride, calculating, claiming. When their gaze landed on us cubs, everything inside me turned to ice. Kumo pushed me backward. "Run," he whispered. "But run!" We darted into the tall grass as the roars behind us twisted into screams. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The jungle blurred as we ran and ran until my legs buckled. I collapsed near a dry riverbed, chest burning, vision spinning. Kumo lay beside me, trembling. We can't go back." The words tasted like ash. That was the day I learned the jungle has no memory. The moment you lose your place, it erases you. No one tells that part of the lion's story. Humans will say, "The males take over new prides." They say it casually, like it's just nature. But they never speak of the cubs who run until their paws bleed, or the mothers who cry quietly when night falls, or the sons who grow up without fathers because the jungle demanded a king's head. That was the first time I was forgotten. Kumo and I stuck together, hunting lizards and small birds, drinking from muddy pools, sleeping under bushes where predators wouldn't find us. Nights were long, cold, cruel. Hunger made us lightheaded. Fear made our bones vibrate. But every time I felt myself break, Kumo would nudge me. "We'll make it," he'd say. "We'll be stronger. We'll be kings one day." I believed him. I believed everything he said. Until the day the poachers came. We were resting near a patch of shade when we heard it. Metal snapping. A cry. Kumo's cry. I turned and saw him thrashing, a metal snare tightening around his back leg. His claws tore the ground apart as he tried to pull free. "Kumo!" I rushed to him. He roared at me, not in anger, but in desperation. "Go! Now! I won't leave you!" His leg twisted at a terrible angle. The scent of blood filled the air. He pushed me back with his paw. "If they find you too, we're both dead." I hesitated. 1 heartbeat. 2. The grass rustled. Human voices. Footsteps. Kumo roared again, this time with everything he had left. I ran. I told myself I would come back for him, that I would find him, that lions don't abandon their own. But I never saw my brother again. Humans later told the story as a statistic. 1 injured lion found caught in a trap. Another number. Another line in a report. But this is the truth. He was my brother. He saved my life, and I ran with his voice echoing in my skull. From that day, I stopped dreaming about being a king. Kings attract danger. Kings are hunted by lions, by hunger, by humans, by fate. I just wanted to survive. I grew stronger, harder, sharper. Scars became my language. The nights taught me patience. The hunger taught me discipline. The loneliness taught me focus. And yet, no matter how far I walked, the jungle never let me forget that I didn't belong anywhere. Every territory I approached stank of other males. Every pride rejected me. Every watering hole was a battleground. I became a shadow lion, seen but never remembered, alive but not living. Humans saw me sometimes. They whispered, "Look, an old rogue." They pointed cameras. They snapped pictures. They gave me names I never asked for, but none of them knew my story. None of them knew the blood I carried. None of them knew what I had lost. And this is the part of the jungle they never show you. The years in between. The silent battles. The slow erosion of hope. The prideless lions who walk alone not because they want to, but because they have nowhere left to go. If you're still here, if this story has touched you even a little, don't forget to support this channel. It helps bring more untold stories to life. Now hold on, because the worst part of my journey was still ahead. And what happened next would change everything I thought I knew about survival. The sky was bruised purple the night everything truly fell apart. I had survived rival lions. I had survived hunger. I had survived losing my father and losing Kumo. But nothing prepares you for the kind of fear that comes when the jungle itself seems ready to swallow you whole. I remember the smell first. Rot mixed with wet fur. Hyenas. A whole pack of them. Not scavengers tonight. Hunters. And I was alone, too far from shelter, too weak from days without a proper meal. They emerged from the darkness like ghosts with glowing eyes, circling me with slow confidence. Their leader, a large female with a torn ear, hissed something guttural, her laughter echoing around me like broken glass. I lowered into a crouch. I didn't run, not this time. Running meant giving them permission to chase. And I'd been chased enough for one lifetime. One lunged. I dodged, slashing her muzzle open. She howled as the scent of fresh blood filled the air. The others snapped wildly, their snapping jaws sending sparks of terror up my spine, but I stood my ground. That's when everything exploded. Dust, teeth, claws, fury. They charged all at once. I roared, the kind of roar the jungle remembers even when the lion is forgotten. I tore into the first hyena, pinned her to the ground, and felt her bones crack beneath my weight. Another latched onto my back. I flung myself sideways, crushing it. A third went for my throat. I caught it with my paw and slammed it down so hard the earth trembled. But there were too many. They swarmed me. One ripped into my shoulder. Another clamped onto my leg. Pain shot through me like fire. My vision blurred. My knees buckled. And that's when instinct, the oldest instinct a lion possesses, kicked in. Survive. Just survive. I roared again, using the last of my strength, and the sound tore the air apart. It startled them long enough for me to escape their claws. I sprinted through the dark, bleeding heavily, stumbling more than running. Their laughter followed me, echoing cruelly, promising they would finish the hunt when I slowed down. But the jungle itself answered them. Lightning split the sky. Rain poured suddenly, drenching the ground. The hyenas, hesitant in storms, slowed their chase. I pushed myself farther, deeper into the night, until the sound of their footsteps faded. I collapsed under a dead acacia tree, panting, trembling, bleeding. The rain washed my wounds, but the cold sank into my bones. I could barely move. I could barely breathe. I remember thinking, so this is it. This is how forgotten lions die. But death didn't come. Not that night. Instead, the storm eased, and another scent drifted into the air, familiar yet distant. Lion. A lone lioness. Cautious steps approached. I didn't lift my head. I didn't have the strength. Her voice came soft, but sharp. You're either brave or foolish, lying out in the open like this. I forced my eyes open. She was thin, scarred, her ribs showing through her fur. A survivor. I saw in her eyes the same hunger, the same loss. Finish it, I croaked. If you've come to take the kill, then do it. She snorted. If I wanted you dead, I'd already be eating. She circled me, examining the wounds. Hyenas? I nodded weakly. You're lucky, she said. They didn't finish the job. I wouldn't call this lucky. She sat nearby, just outside striking distance. Name's Zara. I didn't speak. I didn't trust my voice or my dignity at that point. Zara flicked her tail. You don't have to talk. Just stay alive. That's usually enough. I wanted to trust her, but trust was a luxury lions like me couldn't afford. Still, she didn't attack. She didn't steal the kill I didn't have. She didn't leave me for the hyenas to return. She stayed. When dawn broke, she nudged me. Get up. I can't, I muttered. Then crawl. There was no softness in her tone, only necessity. Zara wasn't here to comfort me. She was here to challenge me back into existence. I crawled, then limped, then staggered. She led me to a hidden watering hole tucked between rocks and thick thorn bushes, an oasis I would have never found alone. I drank until my stomach ached. She left while I slept. That was her way, come and go like a shadow. But she always came back. Every night she returned, sometimes with scraps she stole from vultures, sometimes with nothing at all. She watched me heal, watched me rebuild strength, watched me stand again. "You're not the only lion who lost everything," she said once. And that's when I knew she was carrying her own ghosts. The more I healed, the more the jungle shifted around us. The rains dried, the heat grew sharper, and the drought began. Watering holes turned to cracked earth. Grass shriveled. Herders pushed their cattle closer to our lands. The scent of humans lingered everywhere. Most lions migrated, chasing water miles away. But Zara stayed. "Why not leave?" I asked. "Because running doesn't change anything," she said. "I tried. The past always follows." I understood her perfectly. We hunted together. Small prey, weak prey, any prey. Sometimes we went days without food. Our ribs became visible. Our steps became slower. Nights were spent listening to distant roars from territories we couldn't enter. During the worst of the drought, I found Zara standing over a dry riverbed, staring at the cracks like they were veins of a dying world. "You think the jungle remembers us?" I asked, half joking. She shook her head. "The jungle only remembers strength." I didn't argue. She was right. One evening, when the sun melted into red haze, Zara didn't return from her hunt. Hours passed. Hyenas laughed in the distance. Something inside me twisted. For the first time in months, I felt something more than survival. Fear. Not for me, for her. I followed her scent through thorns and tall grass until I found her collapsed beside a fallen buffalo calf. She'd killed it alone. A reckless, impossible kill. Her breathing was shallow. Blood pooled beneath her from a hidden wound in her side. "What were you thinking?" I growled. She opened a weak smile. "Dinner. You'll die like this." "We're all dying," she whispered. "Some of us just choose when to stop pretending." I refused that answer. I dragged the carcass to cover. I stood guard while she slept. For 3 days, she healed while I protected her. I roared at scavengers, fought off vultures, and stayed awake through nights when the moon felt like a spotlight revealing our weakness. It was the first time since Kumo that I felt connected to another lion. Not by blood, not by pride, but by something smaller, quieter, and much more powerful. Survival woven together. When Zara finally stood on her paws again, she looked at me with something almost like gratitude. "Why didn't you leave?" she asked. "Because you didn't leave me." She held my gaze for a long time. The wind carried the scent of rain that wasn't coming. The sky growled with thunder that held no promise. We were 2 lions against a dying jungle. And neither of us was giving up. If this story is gripping you, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next. Because the next battle we faced was bigger, bloodier, and more dangerous than anything so far. And it was only the beginning. Weeks passed, and the jungle became a battlefield of survival. Predators roamed with sharper hunger, prey grew scarce, and humans edged closer with their metal and noise. Zara and I learned to move silently, avoid trouble, and strike only when necessary. But even the quietest life has a breaking point. One evening, as the sky burned orange, we heard it, a roar unlike any we had heard before. Not the distant challenge of a rival male, Not the playful roar of cubs, but deep, resonant, and full of authority. It belonged to a lion we had never seen before, a massive male with a thick black mane that bristled like the dark clouds behind him. His eyes caught the sun and glinted like molten gold. Every step he took vibrated through the earth. Zara stiffened beside me. He's territorial. We're not welcome. I knew that without being told. This lion wasn't just claiming territory. He was rewriting the rules. He roared again, and the sound rolled across the savannah, challenging everything that lived here. The hyenas, who had been lurking near the edges of our hidden waterhole, retreated instantly, cackling in defeat. Even the elephants paused, ears wide, as though acknowledging him. I should have felt fear. I should have turned away. But something inside me roared back. Years of survival, scars earned, lessons learned, all demanded recognition. I stepped forward. Zara growled beside me, warning me not to provoke him. But I couldn't. Not this time. Not now. The male lion eyed me, measuring, calculating. His gaze pierced into my scars, my wounds, my history. Then he roared again, not as a threat, but as a challenge. I understood immediately. This was no ordinary fight. This was destiny. The jungle was testing me, testing every lesson I had learned, every survival instinct I had honed. We collided. Claws ripped, teeth clashed, and the earth shook beneath us. I felt every muscle strain, every rib jar, every instinct scream for survival. For the first time in years, I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was alive in the purest sense, every nerve burning, every sense sharp, every breath a declaration. Zara circled the edges, watching, ready to strike if either of us faltered. But neither did. We fought until the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky blood red. By nightfall, neither of us could stand fully, but we knew the jungle had witnessed something it rarely does. A duel of equals. The new male roared once more, low and respectful, and walked away. He wasn't defeated, and neither was I. But something unspoken passed between us, a recognition of endurance, of survival, of the stories that go untold. That night, Zara and I rested beside a hidden watering hole. I thought about everything that had brought me here. Kumo, my father, the hyenas, the poachers, the drought, and finally, Zara. The jungle had broken me, shaped me, and tested me, and now it had acknowledged me. But peace in the jungle is a fleeting illusion. The next morning, smoke rose on the horizon. Humans. Their vehicles churned the dust, and their rifles gleamed in the sunlight. I could hear the shouts, the vehicles rolling over land that had been ours for generations. They weren't here by accident. They were here to capture, kill, or claim what they thought belonged to them. And they didn't care about pride, survival, or the stories of lions who had been forgotten. Zara growled low. "We can't fight all of them." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The fire in my chest told me I would protect what little territory, what little life we still had. Humans could take many things from the jungle, but they would not take our story. Not if we could help it. We watched, waited, and planned. As the humans moved closer, a small herd of zebras panicked, scattering in all directions. Shots rang out. Dust flew. Chaos erupted. Hyenas tried to take advantage, but we were faster, sharper, smarter. Zara and I moved like shadows, striking when the humans least expected it. We toppled traps, broke snares, and drove them back with sheer intimidation. Every roar, every swipe, every calculated move reminded the jungle and ourselves that even forgotten lions still leave their mark. By the time night fell, the humans retreated. The land was scarred, but the message was clear. This territory still belonged to the wild. We had survived. We had defended what we loved. And in the jungle's quiet aftermath, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, a spark of purpose. But purpose attracts attention. That night, whispers of distant roars reached us, cubs calling, rival males challenging, predators staking their claims. I realized then that survival alone was no longer enough. To live fully in this jungle, I would need more than strength. I would need connection, allies, and strategy. Zara nudged me. "You've changed," she said softly. "You're not the same lion who stumbled out of the snare months ago." I stared at the dark horizon. "No," I admitted, "I'm not. But neither is the jungle, and neither are we. Everything is changing. Everything is testing us." Days turned into weeks. We hunted together, defended together, moved silently across territories we didn't own, avoided humans who thought themselves rulers, and survived. I taught Zara how to anticipate rival lions, and she taught me patience and cunning that came from scars deeper than my own. Together, we became a unit of shadows, predators the jungle hadn't fully reckoned with. Then came the roar that would change everything again. A call from a small pride trapped in a valley between human settlements and hyena territory. Their males had been killed, their cubs scattered, and they were on the brink of starvation. Zara and I looked at each other. I could feel it in my chest. This was more than survival. This was responsibility. I had lost everything. I had wandered alone. I had survived years as a ghost. And now, perhaps it was time to give back, to step out of the shadows, to protect those who could not protect themselves. The journey to the trapped pride was dangerous. Humans had started building structures closer to our paths. Hyenas were more aggressive, and the heat drained strength with every step. But we moved relentlessly, silently, strategically. When we arrived, the pride looked at us as if we were myths, legends returning to the land of the living. Cubs stared wide-eyed, mothers hissed in disbelief, and the few remaining males lowered their heads in respect, sensing that we were lions who had seen too much to be trifled with. I stepped forward, Zara beside me, and roared, a roar that echoed across valleys, rivers, and hills. It wasn't a roar of aggression. It was a roar of presence, a declaration, a story. The jungle listened. The pride followed. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt since Kumo and my father. Belonging, purpose, and a voice that mattered. We trained them. We hunted strategically. We defended our newfound territory. And slowly, the jungle began to remember me. Not as a forgotten lion, not as a rogue, not as a shadow, but as a protector, as a story worth telling, a side of the jungle the humans would never hear. And yet, the greatest lesson of all came quietly. One night, Zara and I sat beneath the stars, listening to the wind ripple across the tall grass. She nudged me gently. "Do you understand now?" she asked. "The jungle doesn't just survive on strength. It survives on story, on memory, on truth." I looked at her, feeling the weight of years, scars, and losses. "I understand," I said. "The humans never knew. The jungle doesn't forget, and neither will I. This is my side of the story." I let the words hang in the night, knowing that somewhere, someone might hear them, understand them, maybe even feel the heartbeat of a lion they never saw. And if you've stayed with me this far, remember, The jungle's stories aren't just what you see. They're what you survive, what you fight for, and what you choose to protect. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear more untold stories from the wild, from the eyes of those who live them. Because the jungle isn't just what you know. It's the truth I carry with every scar, every roar, every heartbeat, the lion's side of the story. The morning came quietly, almost too quietly. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move, the next roar, the next battle. Zara and I moved through the shadows, muscles coiled, senses alert. The pride we had saved followed cautiously behind, learning, watching, surviving. It was no longer just about us. It was about them, and about showing the jungle that strength alone was meaningless without purpose. It started with a challenge from across the ridge. A male lion, younger but brimming with raw power, had heard of our presence. Word travels fast in the wild, carried by scent, by roars, by whispers of the wind. He arrived with his own followers, confident and cruel. His eyes locked on me, a predator sizing another predator. The air thickened with tension. I could smell his pride, see the way they moved, hear the way the wind carried their arrogance. Zara hissed low, warning me of his aggression, but I didn't move. I had fought before. I had survived humans, hyenas, droughts, rival males. I knew how to wait. I knew how to strike. I knew the jungle's rules better than anyone, and I knew that fear had no place here. The younger male roared, a sound meant to dominate, to intimidate. I responded with my own roar, raw and deep, echoing across valleys, shaking leaves from trees, sending the nearby prey scattering in terrified flocks. It was a sound that said, "I am here, I am witness, I am not forgotten." He charged. The earth shook under his paws. His pride followed like shadows on fire. I met him at the crest of the ridge. Claws met claws, teeth clashed, and the wind seemed to scream with us. I could feel the strength of youth in his attack, but I had experience, patience, and scars earned from every challenge that had ever touched me. Every strike I made was calculated, every dodge precise, every roar a reminder that I had survived everything the jungle threw at me, and more. The fight lasted hours, though it felt like days. Sand and dust swirled around us. The pride watched, silent and tense, unsure who would claim victory. And then, in a moment that decided everything, I found an opening, a weakness in his guard, a flicker of hesitation. I seized it. One precise lunge, one calculated strike, and the younger male staggered back, exhausted, his pride faltering behind him. I roared again, not in triumph, but in assertion. The message was clear. I had lived, I had endured, and the jungle remembered me. The next few weeks were a trial of consolidation. We strengthened the small pride, trained them to hunt, and patrolled the edges of our territory. Each day brought new dangers, humans with snares and guns, hyenas testing the limits of their audacity, rival lions seeking to reclaim lost pride. Every night, Zara and I sat in silence, listening to the distant echoes of life, teaching the young, whispering the unspoken rules of survival. But it wasn't all war. For the first time in years, there were moments of peace. Cubs played under our watchful eyes, unaware of the perils surrounding them. The pride learned the meaning of trust, the rhythm of the hunt, the balance between power and restraint. I watched them and felt something stir in my chest, a flicker of pride, of belonging, of legacy. Yet the jungle is never static. A drought returned with sudden fury, turning once flowing rivers into cracked earth. Humans pushed even closer with cattle and fire, claiming waterholes and hunting grounds. Disease spread among prey, thinning the herds, and the hyenas grew bolder, attacking at night with newfound cunning. Survival became relentless. Every day was a test. Every night, a challenge. I learned that leadership is more than strength. It is patience. It is strategy. It is knowing when to fight and when to retreat, when to roar and when to stay silent. And through it all, Zara remained by my side, not as a subordinate, not as a companion, but as a mirror. She reflected what I had become and what I could still become. She reminded me that survival alone is hollow, but survival for those you care about gives life meaning. Then came the ultimate test, a human presence that changed everything. Hunters with rifles, larger than before, encroached upon our territory with machines and traps. Their numbers were too great to challenge head-on. But humans underestimate what the jungle knows. It does not bend. It does not forgive easily. I moved the pride silently, guiding them through hidden paths. Old trails I remembered from my youth, teaching them how to stay unseen, unheard, untouchable. Every step was deliberate, every pause strategic, every breath measured. We struck without hesitation. Snare lines were destroyed. Young hunters were chased away by sudden, coordinated roars. Vultures and scavengers scattered as the jungle itself seemed to rise in defense. The humans retreated, shaken, confused, and fearful, unaware that they had faced a force older, wiser, and far more cunning than they could comprehend. That night, under a sky strewn with stars, I finally allowed myself to rest. Zara leaned against my flank, her steady warmth a reminder of everything we had endured. I looked at the pride, the cubs, the young males, the females, and for the first time in decades, I saw the reflection of the jungle in them, resilient, fierce, alive. I realized then that my journey, losing my family, wandering alone, surviving hyenas, humans, drought, and rival lions, had not been in vain. It had prepared me for this, to protect, to endure, to teach, to roar, to live, and the jungle, vast and indifferent, had acknowledged my survival. I roared into the night, a roar carrying across valleys and rivers, through trees and grasslands, across every shadow and crevice. This roar wasn't for dominance, it wasn't for pride, it was a declaration. It was the lion's truth, the story humans never told, the side of the jungle they never saw. And as the pride gathered around me, listening, learning, trusting, I realized that even forgotten lions leave legacies. Even those cast aside by fate, scars, and time can rise again. And the jungle remembers, not the numbers humans write, not the images they capture, but the courage, the survival, the roar that refuses to be silenced. Zara nudged me. "The cubs will tell stories someday," she said, "and maybe they'll tell the story you've carried all these years." I nodded, letting the wind carry my thoughts across the savannah. Stories are stronger than memory. Stories endure. And this is my side of the story. To you, watching this now, remember, the jungle isn't only what you see in pictures or videos. It isn't the hunts you read about, or the roars you hear through speakers. It's the survival, the choices, the struggles hidden in every shadow, behind every roar, and beneath every paw print. You may think you know the jungle, but until you hear the lion's side of the story, you only know half of it. And that's why I am telling you now. Because the jungle remembers. And so should you. If you've followed this story to the end, don't let it fade. Subscribe, share, and join us in uncovering more stories like this. Stories untold, perspectives unseen, lives uncounted. The jungle is full of voices waiting to be heard, and the lion has finally found his voice. Roar with me, tell the story, and never forget, survival is not just about living, it's about enduring, remembering, and rising. This is my legacy. This is my roar. This is my side of the story. And somewhere out there, in the rustling grass and the shadows of the savannah, the jungle listens and waits for the next story to unfold. The forgotten lion is no longer forgotten, and neither will this story be.